Welcome back to Law and Crime, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. We are live right now in our first trial of the day. This is the Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum trial out of Georgia, the two former foster parents who were accused of abusing two girls in their care, resulting in the death of one of them, 2-year-old Layla Marie Daniel. Now, the defense has begun their case today. We've seen multiple witnesses testify so far, trying to paint these defendants in a positive light, saying they were good parents, they never abused these girls. And on the stand right now is a very, very important witness for the defense, Mary Jane Rosenbaum. This is Joseph Rosenbaum's mother. Let's go live. Okay, let's break down the testimony from Joseph's mother, Nilima. This has been an interesting back and forth. She didn't observe abuse. First time I think we heard someone say that all the discipline that the Rosenbaums did was do this kind of time out. We've heard from Millie herself, who said that she was spanked. Is she a credible witness?
Jesse, I want to believe Mary Jane. I really, really do, especially considering what's happened to the victims. But unfortunately, it's just not adding up to me. And I doubt that it's adding up to the jury either. There were some, the autopsy revealed that there was some bruising and there was some cuts on the face that had happened some time ago. But this witness is claiming that she never saw any of that.
Yeah, and it's convenient, to have a defense witness say that. And Joseph, talking about the autopsy, we learned yesterday that the forensic pathologist said that she believes that this little girl, this 2-year-old girl, Layla, was having a seizure as a result of blunt force trauma, an impact from about an hour before the incident. What does that mean to you, blunt force trauma? What kind of impact could do that?
I think that she went on to hypothesize that this would have, we talked at length about the transected pancreas. She also had trauma to her liver as well, and that means that these are blunt, direct force injuries where a knee, and this is what the ME was talking about, the knee was being driven into the abdomen and generating this type of trauma, and it takes that kind of force. I've equated in the past in this particular case that we generally only see trauma like this associated with motor vehicle accidents. That's how much force it takes. Yeah.
That's incredible to think about. And yes, that is substantiated by Peggy Banks, the great-grandmother in this case, who testified that Millie told her Jennifer would knee her and her sister in the stomach. It's just horrifying to think about. Defense still has an uphill battle. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be live. Compelling testimony right here. Now, for the people who don't believe this, is it that she's not being credible? Or is it that she is shielded from a lot of the things? As they said, Jennifer Rosenbaum kept giving different stories. So for people who don't believe this testimony, who believe the Rosenbaums are guilty, what do you think they're making of this testimony?
I gotta tell you, Jesse, I do not think that they are buying this testimony whatsoever. It's just not adding up. There are,
Is she making it up, or was she deceived?
No, it seems like she's making it up. Who's going to believe a story that a 2-year-old child fell in a hole and as a result the child broke their leg? It's just not conceivable.
And that's the issue that you have with this?
Yes, definitely the issue I have. And it seems like she was very much in touch with Layla and Millie throughout, the time that the Rosenbaums had custody of the children. But she doesn't seem to be aware of any bruises or any injuries that were going on with the kids.
Now, Joseph, talking about these injuries, one of the things that always struck me as odd is that it's hard for the state to definitively pinpoint when the injuries were inflicted, who inflicted them, how long this abuse occurred for. I mean, there are times you hear witnesses say, we didn't observe anything, we didn't see any bruises, but we all know the end result. We all know how this all ended up. What can you tell us about the proximity of this, when this happened? What should we be thinking about here?
Well, what you're faced with here is the reality of you've got bruises, you've got other injuries, these abrasions, these sort of things that are in various states of healing. So that cannot be denied. And that for us creates a timeline. Now, it's going to lack specificity. And I know that people, they want to peg things down to the absolute millisecond. That's an impossibility. But for her to say, since she was the caretaker of these children at some point in time, that she didn't observe anything is really difficult for me to believe from a scientific perspective, because there is a trajectory. Let's keep in mind, this little baby was only 2 years old.
Right.
Right. What? It's 24 months old. she's got a timeline of injuries here. There's observable trauma here.
That's the thing to really consider here. I mean, again, Layla and Millie were both examined. You have two victims here. That's the thing to account for. And yes, while they can keep having witnesses come forward for the defense and saying these were good parents and they didn't observe abuse, at the end of the day, this jury just saw all of this forensic evidence pointing to the opposite. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll jump live. A big day here on the network. Stay tuned. A lot to dissect there. In fact, she said she listed 22 injuries involving the head and neck area. There's a reason the prosecution waited for the end to bring out this witness to tie up the whole case, right?
I definitely agree with you. I think this is a slam dunk witness, and she's really tying together a lot of loose ends and putting together a nice narrative showing, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't choking at all. This was a seizure, and the seizure resulted from blunt force.
And Joseph, you know, we're listening to what she had to say. The big thing to really point out that I thought was huge was she didn't observe any chicken, you know, in the trachea. There was no digestive chicken, nothing to suggest choking. But what did you make of it from your perspective?
Well, we need to listen to what she's saying very carefully about the seizure event. Folks at home, think about any time maybe you personally or someone at home or a friend or family has an obstruction in the airway. The first inclination, and it's a primal response, is to go like this, where you grab your throat and you become kind of contracted where you bend forward. That's not the motion they're talking about. What she was witness to have seen was that the head was thrown back and the arms were extended like this. And this is what gives Dr. Darshaw the indication that this is probably a seizure event, you know, in the case of this little baby. Yeah. And so it mitigates this other stuff that they're talking about relative to the obstruction of the airway.
Yeah, her opinion is this was a result of shock, not choking. Let's see a little bit more of her testimony from yesterday. Now, Nilima, that's a strong statement there, but having said that, again, we don't know exactly how these injuries were inflicted, when they were inflicted, or who did what. Is this a circumstantial evidence case? Is this a strong case for the prosecution? Because, you know, it's a delicate line between saying children have injuries, they fall around, they're young kids. On the other hand, they're saying just based upon the number of injuries, where they're located, and the fact that you have a 2-year-old who died in the care and custody of the Rosenbaums, and also Millie, who said that she was physically disciplined, is that enough to secure conviction against both Jennifer and Joseph?
I can't say so much about Joseph. His name has, you know, stayed out of this trial quite a bit. But Jennifer, we've been hearing a lot about information related to her, and I think circumstantial evidence is huge in this case, and there's quite a bit of it. So this expert just stated that there was bruising present on Layla's body, and it was in areas that a normal 2-year-old wouldn't have. That's huge for the jury to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Joseph, we keep talking about what the defense is going to do. I've been talking about it throughout this whole case. After every one of these witnesses has come forward, medical professionals, first responders, nurses, doctors, they all said this is abnormal, this shouldn't have happened. What is an expert going to testify for the defense? If they have an expert to testify, what on earth could this person say to testify to and say, hey, listen, this is 100% a result of accidents and choking? I mean, can you find an expert like that? And you mentioned it earlier. I just want to reiterate it for our viewers.
I think that it would be, you could find an expert, but I don't know that you would believe them, because there's too many problems here with the number of injuries that we're talking about, Jesse. It's just a plethora of these insults that this child sustained. And let's keep in mind, let's take this back to the jury. These jury members have seen something we haven't seen. They've seen those images. And when that abdominal area is opened up and they have the images of all of the blood that's contained in that abdomen, the descriptors relative to the traumatized liver, and also that pancreas, that is powerful, powerful stuff, Jesse.
A transected pancreas is not from an accident. It's a very strong impact. That's what we've been learning throughout this case. We're going to take a break. When we come back, if we can't go live, we're going to play you more of this witness from yesterday because it was something to watch. Stay tuned. So she says she's never seen anything like this as a resuscitation method gone bad. The question is, you had mentioned it earlier, you have Jennifer and you have Joseph. So much focused on Jennifer. Is there a possibility that he's going to be found not guilty of any of the charges levied against him because it's hard to pinpoint him to the abuse?
You know, I can't imagine, because prosecution is made up of a team of such rock stars, that they're just going to let Joseph go. I feel that in the beginning they're trying to really focus on what the stronger circumstantial evidence is and try to pin down what could have happened on Jennifer. Later on, it's possible that we see other witnesses for defense come forward, and maybe that'll be prosecution's opportunity to kind of expose what Joseph had been up to.
And you can't just sit back, allow your wife to do whatever she does and not do anything. That's what it's also implicated there as well. I'm very curious to see which way this goes. We have about 30 seconds left. Let me ask you, what other witnesses do you expect to see today from the defense?
I think it's possible that they try to bring more friends of the family. I don't know how useful it's going to be. We've seen the witnesses so far haven't been so helpful, but it's possible that other people that went to law school with the Rosenbaums might show up as well. Nilima
Singh, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
All right, Joseph's going to stay with us. We have a lot more to break. Waiting to jump live into Amato and Rosenbaum. Big day here on the network. We'll be right back right after this.